Good day everyone. In our previous lesson, we tackled about factors to be considered in organizing assessment activity, and now welcome to our lesson with the purpose of assessment, orientation, documentation, and appointment for NC2. I'm excited to be here with you today to discuss the important components of vocational education. We will be exploring the purpose of assessment, the role of documentation in orienting students, and the benefits of appointment scheduling. I hope you'll find this lesson informative and engaging, and that you'll walk away with a better understanding of how these elements work together to support your success as vocational education students. So let's dive into our discussion. The purpose of the assessment must be clear to both the assessor and the candidate. Properly determine if the assessment is for certification, licensing, UH&S, or skills audit. Assessment may be carried out for a number of purposes such as qualification is a level of knowledge, skills, and competencies an individual possesses, as officially recognized through assessment. In development qualifications framework, qualifications are assigned to specific levels and individuals can be assessed against competency standards to determine whether they meet the requirements for a formal qualification, which is issued as a national certificate. From that qualification is when you officially get recognized for the knowledge and skills you have through an assessment that checks if you meet the standards for a particular level, and in the Philippines this is then through the TEVET qualifications framework, where you can get a national certificate. Second, purpose of assessment is recruitment. Assessment may be carried out in order to recruit a person for a particular job or position. The criteria for the position are generally stated as selection criteria and form the basis of the interview, meaning assessment is done to check if the person is suitable for a specific job or position by evaluating their skills and knowledge based on selection criteria, which is used as the basis for the interview, and that refers to requirement. The next purpose of assessment is education or training needs. Assessment can be a tool to identify training needs of employees. This can be a tool to design relevant training programs, while assessment can help identify the education and training needs of employees, which can then be used to create tailored training programs that are relevant to their specific needs. One of the purposes of assessment employee is employee classification industry, where it may use competency standards for employees to move from one level to another. Subsequent to assessment against the relevant competency standard, it can be determined whether individuals have the required competency or for a corresponding level of performance. This suggests that competency assessment can be used by the industry to classify employees into different levels based on their skills and knowledge, and to determine if they have the required competencies to perform at a certain level. Including in the list of purpose of assessment is assurance of progress. Assessment can provide feedback to trainees over a period of learning. Assessment results can be used to modify the way in which a training program is delivered to best suit the needs of trainees. This entails that assessment can give trainees feedback on their progress during a training program, and the results can be used to make adjustments to the program to better meet their needs. We are down to the last purpose of assessment, which is recognition of prior learning. It is an important aspect of competency-based training is a recognition of prior learning. People may already possess various competencies gained through formal and informal learning and experience. This competency can be recognized through assessment, meaning recognition of prior learning is when competencies gained through formal or informal learning and experience are recognized through assessment, which is an important aspect of competency-based training. And now, let's proceed to the purpose of assessment orientation. So class, before we dive in, do you have any idea why it is necessary to have an orientation before the actual assessment? Okay, Miss Dumpa, what's your idea? Very good. How about your How about you, Mr. Kaobi? That's right. Okay, the purpose of the assessment orientation is to check candidates' readiness for assessment. The assessment orientation is usually being done at the assessment centers. The candidates must equip with the following information. Number one, qualification for assessment. Number two, assessment and certification assessment. Well, assessment orientation is done to check if a candidate is ready for assessment and usually conducted at the assessment centers. During the orientation, candidates learn about the qualifications for assessment and the arrangements for assessment and certification. Alright, class, let's move on the purpose of assessment documentation. Miss Siruhalis, what comes into your mind when you hear assessment documentation? What a definite explanation. How about you, Mr. Allo? Do you have any thoughts? Very good. So the assessment documentation provides the following assessment documentation. Contains personal information, work experience, education or training, and qualification of the candidate. The result of the assessment is recorded in the assessment documentation. Documentation includes information on the numbers of candidates assessed and certified for a certain qualification. Assessment documentation provides a review of the assessment process. Alright, let's proceed to the purpose of assessment appointment. Appointment ensures that there will be an assessor in the scheduled date of assessment and to inform candidate in the schedule of assessment. The definition itself is self-explanatory, which the assessment appointment ensures the presence of an assessor in the scheduled date of assessment and informs candidate about the assessment schedule. Thank you all for participating in today's class for the purpose of assessment, orientation, documentation, and appointment for NC2. We have explored the different purposes of assessment, including certification, recruitment, education or training needs, employee classification, assurance of progress, and recognition of prior learning. We have also learned about the importance of assessment orientation to check a candidate's readiness for assessment, the significance of assessment documentation to provide a record of a candidate's personal information and assessment results, and the necessity of the assessment appointment to ensure that the presence of an assessor for the scheduled date of assessment. I hope this lesson has been informative and helpful for you, and I look forward to seeing you in our next class. Thank you. Goodbye, class.